All right, welcome to Be the Market Expert, and let's kick this thing off by talking about interest rates because I think this is the most important subject that we can have when we're talking about what's happening in the market and getting some understanding around just our landscape in the industry right now as far as our consumers, buyers, and sellers are thinking. And so if we're looking at this, right, here's our graph, and our graph is showing from January 2nd all the way until yesterday because today's data isn't out yet. And we can see that we're on this upward trajectory. And the rates are just getting higher and higher, which is making the cost of money more and more expensive. And as we're going through this and we're talking about some different things, we have to understand that this is what has put us in this recessionary period in real estate, if you will. And as we're looking at this thing, we know that we are dealing with the largest financial decision that most people make in their lifetime. And when we're thinking about this, we also have to think that the cost of money on this product that we are selling is really high, right? Especially in Colorado. And when we're talking about our average price point, right, we're looking in the sixes. The cost of money is a lot higher than what it was. And so as we're going through and we're just watching this data chart go up and up and up, and right now we're sitting, for a 30-year conforming at 7.186, and your FHA is 6.910. This is why it's super important that we're making sure that we're having these conversations with our lenders and anybody else that has products that can actually make this more affordable. Because as we're going through, we're going and we're looking and we're having conversations. It's not that people don't believe that real estate's a great investment, because it is, right? We know that historically speaking, this is where most millionaires have come from. It's just the barrier to entry is getting a lot harder. The cost of money is getting significantly more expensive to go borrow money to go get a home. And as we're looking at this is the story that we're looking at. But I wanted to show you guys this. And this is rear view facing data. This came out in Q4 of 2023. And this is just total debt. All right. So we are looking at debt Q4 2023. And so check this out. Like, we're looking at this thing and we're looking at Q1 of 2024 or of 2004 all the way to 2023 Q4, right? Just before this year. And as we're going through, you can see that the total debt is going up and up and up. And so we got non-housing debt, which is this red section, and we have housing debt, which is the blue section. So the blue section, right, this is mortgages, right? So we're looking through, and this is all the mortgages and products like that over 30 years, right? We got 30-year products, we have 15-year products. There's people that pay this off a little bit quicker. And I just want you to think of this as mortgage. This is mortgage-related debt right here. And then we have this red debt. And so this is what we have to think about. We're thinking about inflation. All right. So let's talk about inflation. What's happening is the cost of goods is getting more expensive, and we're spending more money. And the more money that we're spending for these products, we're devaluing the dollar, right? So if the dollar back in, I was going to say back in the day, but let's go back in the day. Sure. Why not? Right. So if we're saying that, a couple of years back, a cup of coffee was $1, and now we're sitting at like $1.25, $1.50. There's nothing changed about the cup of coffee. We're just saying that the price is different. It's because the services, we're paying more for the services that are associated with the coffee, the transportation, the gas, all these different things that are happening. And we have to keep in mind that in the United States, we are consumers. Right? We import most all of our stuff, right? And we've had that discussion, right? If you're tuning into anything and you're thinking about this, the United States, we import most everything, right? And we keep hearing, they sent these jobs to this country, or we import this, and right, we hear about like all our imports coming from China, there's imports coming from Mexico, all these different things that are happening. Well, that's because we make money and we spend the money on goods and services. And the more goods and services that we're buying, and we're putting on credit card debt. And this is truly what this is right here. Like, this is your credit card. This is your Amazon shopping spree. This is your cars, like everything. So we look at this, it says mortgage balances shown the consumer credit card reports increased $112 billion during the fourth quarter of 2023. and stood at $12.25 trillion at the end of December. So we have $12.25 trillion in mortgage-backed securities. Balance on home equity lines of credit, so HELOC, increased to $11 billion for the 7th consecutive quarter, right? And we're going to see HELOCs, and the conversation around HELOCs is probably going to get more and more as we're going through, because people aren't going to refinance their house. And what we're seeing, right, with people that are locked in at these 2 to 3% interest rates, they're not going to go refinance and jump into a 7%. What they're most likely going to do is they're going to open up a HELOC if they need any kind of cash infusion. They're going to go through, they're going to open up a HELOC. This HELOC is going to go in and act as some sort of credit card for them, and they're going to be able to make withdrawals against their home. So we're going to probably see this HELOC go up and up and up, and we're probably going to have more conversations around it. But if we look through, we got auto loans, $12 billion in auto loans. Credit card balances, $1.13 trillion, right? These are Amazon purchases. These are things that we're going through and we're spending a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there. This is why the Fed is raising rates, is to make things more expensive, to stop us from spending money. And we feel it the most in our industry because our product is one of the highest price tag items that there is. And so when people have to go borrow money to get that item, it slows a lot of people down because it's not as easy as going to Amazon and just hitting purchase for a brand new TV or for, a bag of socks, right? Like we're going from, $5 item, a couple $100 item, a couple $1,000 item to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the interest rates are still about the same. It's just that you feel it a little bit differently. So let's go through and let's look at this. So let's jump into Housing Wire like we always do. And here is rearview facing data. This information came out from Logan on Friday. And it says spring housing market gets more inventory. And yeah, we're getting more inventory. We know this historically speaking. Our market starts about this time. And what's interesting since the pandemic is our markets actually kind of started to last a little bit longer. So if we look at this, it says active weekly housing inventory growth slowed slightly last week, but it's still running at a healthier clip than in 2023. So more people are putting their homes on the market. We're seeing people that are interested in selling their house. And again, it's not that people weren't interested in selling in 2023, 2022. It's just the cost of money, the way that it was, they weren't incentivized to do it. And I'm not saying that they're incentivized now because the cost of money is still expensive. It's just that we've had so much fatigue waiting on the sidelines. There are people that needed to sell, lifestyle change, something that is happening in their personal or professional lives. Something was going on and they held out. Well, we're getting to the point where you can no longer hold out. And that's, I think, what we're seeing is we're seeing these people that have been sitting on the sidelines waiting. Bubble crash, housing crash, silver tsunami, Airbnb bust, right? We've been hearing all these things that have been happening in the media, and these people have been waiting on the sideline, just waiting for it to happen, and it's not going to happen. Like there's no indicators out there that any of these things that we're going to go through. I actually heard something the other day when they were talking about this silver tsunami, right? We're talking about all the baby boomers. And like this phenomenon that they're talking about is like all the baby boomers are going to die all at the same time or divest in all their assets all at the same time. And there's just going to be this flood on the market. And in all reality, it's going to be like a defrosting, right? It's going to be a slow drip to, yes, they're going to sell a business here, sell a business there. They might sell a second home, a third home. They might be doing some of these different things, but there's no indicators that it's all going to happen at the same time. So we're looking through, and this is why we're seeing homes come onto the market. So we have the model, right, which has been seeing 7.25% weekly inventory data should grow between 11,000 and 17,000 homes per week. And last year we never hit that, right? We were only sitting around 13,000 for the last 2 weeks, which is what we want to be at. We need to see more and more inventory hit the market. And again, what we're doing is we're looking at different things historically speaking, but we have to keep in mind, we have things happening. We have people that are continuing to have babies. And so the population growth is going up. And eventually those babies get older and they start buying houses. And we also have looser requirements to come into the United States and those people need housing as well. And so we have these two things that are happening. We have a population that is increasing because we have US born citizens having children, and those people need bigger houses, or they grow up and they need housing of their own. And we have people that are coming into the United States, and through the United States, they also need housing. So we have all this happening. So we're seeing our population grow, and we're sitting at something like, I think, 330 million, I think is how many people live in the United States. I think it's somewhere around there. And so with all this happening, this number keeps going up, and this number keeps going up, and this number keeps going up, and we're not building. And if we were to look at the inventory right now, or just look at the amount of houses, right, with resale, like that's stagnant. Like we're not going to see more and more resales happening. But what's also interesting, if we were to look at building permits, the only building permit that is not in a recession right now is single family new builds. So single family new builds is the only one where the permits are still going up. Everything else is staying flat, if not going down. And again, it comes down to the cost of money, because they can make more money building a new build, selling it, more than they can doing a multi-family house, building a condo, and then being able to get their money back out of that over time, just because we're getting to a ceiling with how much money they can actually bring in versus what the cost of money is. Like there's no reason for them to keep building new builds. And so with all this happening, we'll see kind of what this looks like, but it's going to be more and more interesting, because inventory constraints are going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. And again, these new builds, they got caught holding the bag back in 2008, right? When we had everything happen, they had all this inventory that they sat on and they lost money. They're not playing that anymore. They have stockholders to answer to, and they're going to keep their inventory at a level to where they know they can sell it, and they're not going to get caught. So weekly housing inventory, if we were to look at this thing, it says weekly inventory change from April 19th to the 26th. So rear view facing data, it rose from 543,000 to 556,000. If we were to look at the same period of time in 2023, it was 414 to 421. So we have more than 100,000 more homes on the market now. And it's not because inventory rates are going down, it's because people are motivated, and their motivations, they can no longer sit on the sidelines anymore. All-time inventory bottom was 240,000. So we're not there. And again, our timeline has expanded. If we were looking to like our seasonality, like it's getting later into the year since post-pandemic. And so we're actually seeing the housing window go a little bit longer now. So we're probably not going to hit anywhere near that number in 2024. It's going to stay a little bit higher. Inventory peak in 2023, 569,000. So guys, we're really, really close. Like we're in the spring market. We're just starting the spring market, and we're at 556,000 nationwide. So we're 13,000 off at this point. We're going to hit that number. We're going to have more inventory hit the market. And again, it's going to be resales. This isn't going to be a bunch of new builds flooding the market. This isn't going to be single or multifamily units coming on. This is truly going to be single family homes and resales. And then so for some context, we like to talk about pre-pandemic. If we look all the way back into 2015, pre-pandemic, 1 million homes. And then here's just your visual, right? Like here we are, we're living right here. And here's our top, right? Like we're still far away, but at least we're not living down here. Like this is a savagely unhealthy market. We don't want to be here. Like this is not a good market. You can see this is 2022 through 2021, right? We hear the stories. My neighbor's home sold in a week, right? My neighbor's home sold on the weekend. It sold within an hour. We hear all these different things. This is what that looked like. There wasn't enough inventory on the market. And again, like this data is only capturing market or data that has sat for a little bit, because it's scraping the data and pulling it. So there's probably in all reality a little bit more homes on the market, but how quickly they were coming off the market, it wasn't able to capture all of them. And then we can obviously see, right, as we're going through, this is when the interest rates started going up and homes were sitting a little bit longer. Now we're going through, and we're seeing it's not worth selling my house because I'm probably lose some money. Inventory went back up, and we're just seeing these cycles right now. We're going on this little bit of a roller coaster. And it really does because of motivations and interest rates is what we're seeing. Historical data, 2024, 70,000 new listings. This is good. We want to see this. We're almost to pre-2022. And keep in mind that if we look at 2022, when we were seeing the new listings hitting the market, majority of that's going to be in the beginning of the year because of where interest rates were. We started seeing things get a little bit weird towards the end of the year because interest rates, I mean, they went up quick. Like while we have high interest rates right now, they're pretty much living like this. In 2022, they went up like this, the fastest we ever saw interest rates rise. And that's what people like got really, really worried and pumped the brakes on a lot of things that they were doing. So here you are, here's just your visual representation. 2024, we're in this red, the dark red right here, this maroon, I guess, if you will. 2023, 2022. So we're doing good. Like this is what we want to see. We want this number to go higher and higher. We need more inventory on the market. But again, when we start talking, especially in Colorado, with our price point being what it is, the cost of money is really expensive. And with us dealing with the highest price tag item that most Americans purchase, that's why we're seeing slow rates of growth and why we are truly in a recession when it comes to real estate. So price cut percentages, 32%, right? We know, historically speaking, 1/3 of all homes in the United States go through a price cut every year. And so we're there right now. Since this period of time in 2024, we sent at 32%. In 2023, we saw 29%. In 2022, we saw 19%. So we're right in line with where we know that we historically have been. We're not going to talk about the 10-year yield when it comes to mortgage rates or the treasury note, but purchase application data. We know this is important. This is the psyche, the reason where the people are raising their hand and they are talking to your lenders. Purchase application data didn't have much movement last week on a week-to-week basis. So last week versus the week prior, it didn't move much, but it's still showing double-digit declines from last year. The purchase application data has collapsed so much that we have a very low bar, right? So we've been talking that we've been living in the basement, right? And we are like this line right here is the basement and we're still down there. And again, it's not that people don't want to go buy a house. It's because the cost of money to actually go out and do it. And this is why it's super important. Like we need to be talking to our lender partners. What products do they have available to make the cost of money cheaper, as well as new builds? And that's what we're also seeing, right? New builds at this point are taking more market share than they've ever taken. Is because they have a product inside of their lending mechanism that they can make their money cheaper than what a bank can do, what your lender, your mortgage officer can do. So we need to be able to understand these different products because there's people out there, but they don't know what they don't know. And so it's our job to go through, make sure that we're collecting all the data that we can and getting this data out. So this was Friday of last week, and this is what Logan was looking for this week. It's going to be a massive week for data, as jobs week always is. And so this is when we're going to go through and we're going to look at how many Americans have jobs, right? Like that's what this is. This is what the Fed looks at. We are a job loss recession kind of Fed. And so what this means is they're saying that there's too many people with jobs and the jobs are still paying really competitive wages. And when people have jobs and they have money, they spend. And again, in the United States, we're consumers, we're importers, we're not exporters. There's not a lot of jobs in the United States when it comes to goods. And so we keep spending money and we keep spending money. So what the Fed believes is if there's less people with jobs, they will stop spending money, which is kind of interesting to think about when you look at this and we see how much money is being put on credit card debt at this point. And so we're going through, this is what they're going to look for. We also have the employment cost index, which again, how much money people are actually paying, and it's their national home price data. So this week can be it could be wild for mortgage rates, as the all-important labor data is key for rates going out for the rest of the year. And again, if it comes back and people still have a bunch of jobs and we're still paying super competitive salaries, the Fed will not be motivated to drop rates. And so while we kind of harped on this a little bit, right? Like we're going through and we're looking just at, this is just household debt, right? This is just the consumers and everything. What we also have to keep in mind is, we talked about this a little bit, is even last week when the House went through and they approved the $65 billion aid package that went through, like that also takes a major toll on inflation, because what they don't really talk about, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands this on this call, is that when they said we're going to send $65 billion, right, over, they're not going through and going to our vault and getting just gold bars and sending them over. They're going through and they're getting to the printer and they're printing this money. They're putting it on a pallet, they're putting it on a plane, and they're sending it. Like that's what this really is. And what this does is this hurts the US dollar as well, because it actually puts us more in debt. It's actually putting more US currency out there that can be spent. And it's also devaluing the dollar. So not only do we have a lot of people making money, right? Because we're not in a job loss recession, that they're spending money, they're putting on their credit card, they have high car payments, they have, phone payments, they got their 7 subscriptions to different streaming services, like all these different things. We're also sending these 8 packages out there, and all of this combined is what's keeping the Fed not wanting to drop the rates, because they're afraid that we're going to keep spending more and more money. So we're going to go through and we're going to look at Altos data, right? Because Altos data, this is interesting. We're going to jump into Arvada. And as we're looking through, we can see it. It says median list price, we're sitting at $735,000. And if we were to look at it, right, like we look on this far right-hand side, we can see this little graph and it's gone up. So even with everything happening, we need to understand that there's still pockets. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to make sure that we understand. We have different demographics of buyers and sellers, right? We got first-time home buyers, we have first-time home sellers, we have luxury, we have move up, step ups, we have move downs, right? We have all these different, we have aging populations that are needing to right size, all these things that are happening. And while we look at a lot of macro data, right? We look at a lot of macro data and we see, okay, so this is what interest rates are doing. This is what how much inventory is coming on the market nationally speaking. And while we do know that when we start talking about like California and Florida, and we talk about those coastlines, most of it does come in and impact us at some point. We also have to keep in mind that our market looks a lot different than a lot of other markets. I had an article sent to me, which I actually should have probably pulled up from Kim Avery on, I think it was Sunday that she sent it to me. It's from realtor.com. And it was just really talking about how Colorado, we used to be one of the hottest markets and how it's slowed down. Well, what was interesting, like as we were going through and we were looking at all the markets that it was talking about, we're also the highest price market. Like we were the most expensive market out of every other market. And we're talking like there was a market in there, I can't remember what it was. It was like $300,000 was like the median price point. And so when we're looking at us and we're talking about micro data, even if we shrink it in further than just Colorado, we start talking about zip codes and cities, you can see that even with interest rates, Arvada is going up. Arvada went up to $735,000 is the median price point. And for new listings, also $735,000, which went up as well. Price per square foot, still pretty much staying flat-ish, $294. Average days on market, 40, with the median at 14. And this is obviously the story that we need to be continuously telling, especially when we're at that listing presentation and we're sitting at the dining room table, right? When we're pricing it and we're basing it off of data. I was talking to Amanda the other day, and she was on a listing presentation, and the seller said, well, I really like this price because this is what my neighbors sold their house for X amount of time ago, right? We're talking north of 365 days. And this is where we're seeing this data, right? When we're getting these people that are going through and they're looking at data that doesn't really tell the story of where we are today. And then she has another client where she's working with them and they're about to put the house on the market. And there's like 4 other houses that are similar, and they're coming in at a price point that is well below those similar houses. And that's where we're seeing this median, right? So this is the story of pricing your home. 40 days is the average if we don't price it right. 14 if we're competitive. And so that's where we need to figure out what the motivations are, right? Like, why are we selling? What's important to you? What's important about that? What's your timeline? And then we strategically help price it so that we can actually hit either 14 or 40, depending on what their motivating factors are. Price decrease is 33%. So we're right in line. Nationally speaking, 33% is the historic level that we see year over year over year. And it looks like Arvada is no different. 3% price increases, like always, this doesn't super excite me because this just tells me new builds that are in different phases that are coming on. 3% price increases is really all that is. Relist properties, this is the story of the market that we're really in, right? 4%. And we have discerning buyers. When we're talking about interest rates that look like this, right? Like we're going through and we're talking about 7%. This isn't 2021. Right? We're not seeing buyers going through and they're like, awesome, I'll give you $100,000 over asking. I'll waive all my inspections, no contingencies. And if it doesn't appraise, I'll pull it out of the bank. That's not the market that we're in. The market that we're in right now, where we're seeing 4% of these homes being relisted, is that we're getting to these inspection periods, or we're getting to a point where, does this home make sense for me? Because I'm not going to be selling it in probably a year or 2 years. That they're actually going through and they're looking at it and saying, does this work for my long-term goals? So that's why we're seeing this at 4%. And I think it's going to live around there, right? Like we're going to kind of see this while it has gone down a little bit, right? We were at 1.7% March 8th. And while it has come down, I still think we sit below double digits. But again, it really is going to come down to discerning buyers saying, you know what, for the amount of money that I'm spending, I don't know if it makes sense. Inventory 157, median rent price $3,163, and they're giving it a market score of 61. And so if we go over to their market score of 61, it's saying that we're not as awesome of a market as we were last month, right? So this is one of the first times I think we were level last week when we looked at this thing, and now we're slightly less than. So they're saying that this market, based off of all of their metrics right here on their scale, they're saying that Arvada is still in a seller's market, right? Like you see, like right here is the line where we have to get to a buyer's market. They're giving it 61 out of 100. 100 means that the seller has all the power. We probably would have saw 2020, 2021 data right around here. But as of 2024, we're in Q2. We're looking at this thing. We're at a 60 out of 100 seller's market, which a 30% would have to take us to a buyer's market based off of their data. So it's interesting, like, let's go through this, right? Because we're looking at, we got median data or median rent at $3,163, but the median list price is $735. So let's go and let's play with this. So we go in, let's go to Arvada. Guys, this is just your website. This is my website, but we all have access to this, and we're looking through it. So let's look for 735 somewhere in there, and let's look for more of either coming soon or something that's, you know, not super overpriced. All right, here you go. Let's go 760. Why not? So this is very interesting, right? We're going to go $730,000 or $760,000. This is coming soon. Again, this is a 1960s home. Right, this is a 1960s. I'm gonna call it a Hutchinson without playing with it, but I think I feel pretty good. This is probably a 3-bath. That's my guess. Yeah, 3-bath. One of them is going to be a shower bathroom in the primary. So this is a Hutchinson, and so they went through, and it's a remodel. Like we can look at this thing. They went through. They put in, looks like Shaker cabinets by Shaker cabinets. Stainless steel appliance package. They went through, they removed the wall to the kitchen and the downstairs a little bit. They went through, they pretty much cleaned it up. It looks like they took out the wood, or they laid over the wood and put some kind of laminate down, which is sad. Here's your hallway. Nothing really exciting in there. There's your primary, there's your shower. This picture probably doesn't do it really any justice. I bet it's way tighter than that for anyone that's been in this Hutchinson floor plan. They put in new windows. There's the upstairs hallway bathroom, downstairs. They put egress windows in, so they spent a little bit of money. Laundry room, cool. I didn't see a downstairs bathroom. Maybe I passed it, but one of the bathrooms they did not show. Oh no, there. No, there's that. There's the upstairs. I don't think I saw. Oh, there's the downstairs. There's two bathrooms. Okay, or three bathrooms. So there's your bathrooms. Looks like we back up somewhere. Where are we? We're in Scenic Heights. We're somewhere in Scenic Heights. Okay, so we're east of or west of Wadsworth, but somewhere over here. So again, this is a 1960s home. This is a Hutchinson. This is a remodel, $760,000. And this goes back to like these conversations when we're looking and we're seeing that the median price point is $735,000, and your other option is a $760,000 renovated house. This is where we need to make sure that we understand the differences for our clients so that we can actually help them make a decision and that they know all the inventory that's available and all the packages that we have. Yes, you're getting a backyard. It's a pretty big backyard. They have a carport that's attached to the side with the one car garage. And since I didn't see any pictures, I'm going to assume that, yeah, there's no door here. So there's no access from the inside to get to that garage. So let's go through and let's look at it, right? So we're looking at this thing and it says down payment 6% and interest rate 6.9. But in all reality, we're not 6.9 right now, right? If we go through FHA 6.9 or conforming, right? 30-year conforming 7.1. So let's call it 7.1, especially if we're going to go. No, we're good. 6% down, 6.9. We look at that, that's $45,000 at a $760,000 home. $5,468 a month. Like this is what's going on. You're getting a 1960s home that is remodeled and looked really nice, right? I'm not discounting that at all. This was a really good remodel, at least from the pictures. And for $5,468 a month, which is interesting because if you look at that, $417 of that's your mortgage insurance, right? That's for putting 6% down. You're considered a higher liability to your lender. And so now you're paying an insurance policy for them for $417. The only principal and interest that's going there is $4,700 a month, which most of that in the first couple of years is all interest. So you're not really doing anything to build equity into this home very quickly at $4,705 going into principal. Now, if we were to look at this, and let's go to a conforming loan. And so we were going to switch over to 7.1, we'll call it 7.1. And so let's go 7.1, let's go 20% down. So 20% down on this 1960s remodeled Hutchinson home over here in Scenic Heights, it's $152,000 that someone is coming out of pocket with. $152,000, when you go to that 20%, that's when we get rid of this mortgage insurance, right? So that premium is gone, so you're not paying for that. And now your payment is $4,432 a month, right? Which we're north of 48,000, right? This is when we're thinking about this and we're talking about the cost of money, we're dealing with the highest price tag item that most people buy. And when we're talking about that at $4,432 a month, we need to be thinking about what wages look like. And so when we're talking about someone that's making $100,000 a year, 50% of their money is going to their home payment. And that's not including their electricity. That's not including their water. That's not including their car payment. We go through, we look at their outside spending, right? This is what's happening. And so we have all of these expenses that are going on, and that's what's making everything go up and up and up. So as we're having these conversations with our buyers, with our consumers, we're educating $4,432. Like, is there, and they're like, you know what, I'm not going to go out and buy a rehabbed home. I'm not going to go out and buy a 1960s home for this price point. Do we know as real estate agents, even though this is a really nice remodel, I'm not taking away from that, do we know where they can get more bang for their dollar? There's people that are motivated. There's people that need to go out and buy. It's no longer a want, they need to. And so do we know what all the products look like to help them? And then if we were to jump in just to this, so I was just looking, and when I just searched for it, I just went to inflation because I know that's the conversation that's happening this week. especially with everything going through. And it says Fed expected to keep interest rates higher for longer aimed inflation. The Dow drops 300 points before the Fed meets as inflation pressure rises. Is the federal budget deficit making it worse? Probably. European stocks in April down, right? Posting its first negative month. Employee pay has risen more than expected this year, right? These are all the things that is what is frustrating our Fed and what is stopping them from dropping rates. People are employed, people are making money, and as Americans, we are a consumer country and we're still consuming products, right? Like all the things that we do as Americans and all the things that we take for granted and all the things that is probably what, some of the reasons why we stay in the United States. That is what's causing so much pressure on why the Fed is keeping the interest rates as high as they are. They want to see people lose jobs, which is unfortunate. They want to see those people that lose jobs don't make as much money when they get rehired somewhere. And they want to see us stop spending money. Once all those things happen, they're going to feel comfortable that the dollar is going to be safe and protected. And then they will start lowering rates, but they have nothing. There is nothing there that is going to push them to lower rates until stuff like that starts happening.